If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know exactly where your brain goes when you hear a sentence like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
You're picturing, what, a dusty bumper sticker on a minivan? Or maybe one of those motivational cat posters in a dentist's office?
Totally. It feels like wishful thinking, the kind of thing you tell yourself when you're out of actual options.
Exactly. But hold on, because today we are diving into a source that argues this concept isn't poetic at all. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's mechanical.
It really is. And the source material for today, The Architecture of Inner Dominance, isn't a collection of soft affirmations. It's more like a technical manual for a piece of machinery.
Right.
It claims that what we usually dismiss as, daydreaming or fantasizing is actually a biological mechanic that most of us are using completely backward.
That's the hook that got me to sit up and pay attention. The text frames this as conditioning the nervous system.
Mm.
It's all about rewiring your baseline reality through what it calls deliberate, vivid, emotional visualization. So our mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We want to move past the fluff.
Hmm.
We want to really understand the mechanics of how the mind can function as a workshop,
And, more importantly, how to stop building the things you don't want.
which is what most people are doing,
Right.
unknowingly, every single day.
All the time. The central thesis here is that the mind is the greatest workshop in the universe. But because we don't have the operating instructions, we're basically running the conveyor belts in reverse.
Okay, so let's start there with the foundational argument. The text makes a really bold claim about the difference between passive imagination and what it calls inner dominance.
Mm,
So what is the distinction? Because, I can imagine winning the lottery all day. I can see the yacht. I can see the giant novelty check.
yeah.
But my bank account completely disagrees.
And the text would say that's because you're engaging in fantasy, not dominance.
Okay.
The distinction the author makes is about the physicality of the thought.
Hmm.
Passive imagination is just a movie you're watching. It's separate from your body.
Just a picture on a screen.
Yeah. Inner dominance is when the visualization triggers an actual physiological response.
So it's not just seeing the picture.
Yeah.
It's about how your body reacts to it.
Precisely. The source says you have to feel the success in your chest. You have to taste the victory.
Wow.
If your palms aren't sweating a little or if your heart rate doesn't shift, you aren't doing the work. The whole premise is that the subconscious mind, specifically the parts that regulate the nervous system, it can't distinguish between a vivid, emotionally charged imagination and actual reality.
Okay, I want to push on that for a second. Is that just a theory? Or does the text actually back that up? Because it sounds a little like fake it till you make it.
Which can just make you feel like an imposter, I get it.
Yeah.
But it's actually based on how neural pathways are formed. The text talks about how when you vividly rehearse an action like a pianist imagining playing a piece, the same parts of the motor cortex light up as when they actually play it.
So you're building the muscle memory without moving a muscle.
Exactly. And the architecture of inner dominance applies this to your identity. If you constantly simulate the feeling of confidence or competence, your nervous system starts to set that as its new default, its baseline.
So you're essentially tricking your body into thinking the success has already happened. You're hacking the system.
In a way, yeah. And once the body believes it, your behavior changes automatically. You don't have to try to walk confidently. You just do because that's the program that's running.
Method acting, but you never break character.
That's a great way to put it. You are conditioning the system to expect a certain caliber of experience.
And that leads into this idea of the reticular activating system, which the text calls the filter. I found this fascinating. It explains why two people can walk down the same street and see two totally different worlds.
Right. The RAS is the gatekeeper for your brain. It has to filter out millions of bits of data just so you don't go insane. But the key is, it filters based on what you tell. It is important. So when your nervous system expects success, it literally filters the world differently. It's the classic example.
The red car thing. You buy a red car, and suddenly you see red cars everywhere.
Yes, the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. They were always there, you just weren't tuned into them. The text argues you can weaponize that mechanism.
Weaponize it. How?
If you program your mind with a specific frequency of opportunity, your brain literally starts highlighting resources and people that match that pattern. You're not creating magic. You're just tuning the receiver to a station that was already broadcasting.
But here's the problem, and the source spends a huge section on this. If the machinery is this powerful, and we're all technically using it all the time, why are so many people stuck?
Right.
Why aren't we all living these grand designed lives? The text points to this trap called replaying the wrong movie.
And this is the dangerous part. The author argues that we are all visualizing 2147. We just don't call it that.
What do we call it?
We call it worrying, or we call it being realistic.
Oof. That resonated with me. You know, it's 3.0 a.m., you're staring at the ceiling, and you are vividly imagining a conversation going horribly wrong. You can hear their tone of voice, you can feel the embarrassment, you can feel the knot in your stomach about a bill you can't pay.
That is visualization.
Yeah.
And according to this source, that is rehearsing adversity.
Rehearsing adversity, wow.
They're giving your subconscious a perfect blueprint of struggle. And since the subconscious doesn't judge, doesn't say, oh, he doesn't want this to happen, he's just afraid of it.
It just takes the input.
It just takes the input. It says, okay, we are focusing on failure. Let's build the nervous system to handle failure. Let's look for evidence of failure.
That's terrifying. It means your anxiety isn't just a symptom, it's a construction crew.
It is. And that leads to the mirror principle mentioned in Chapter 3. The mirror principle states that the outer world is basically just a laggy mirror of your dominant inner picture. Yeah, laggy. So if you're obsessing over problems, you are printing more problems. The text is very, very strict here. It says, you cannot expect prosperity while you are mentally rehearsing poverty.
But the nuance there is the lag, right? Because I think that's where people quit. They change their mindset for a day, they look in the mirror, see nothing's changed, and say, see, this doesn't work.
Exactly. The text calls this the echo. Your current reality, your bank account, your relationships, it's just an echo of the thoughts you were holding 6 months ago or 5 years ago.
So it takes time for the mirror to update.
A long time. If you want to change the reflection, you can't just scrub the glass. You have to change the object being reflected, and then you have to hold that new image long enough for the reflection to finally catch up.
Which requires a massive amount of mental fortitude.
A huge amount.
You have to ignore the evidence of your eyes in favor of the evidence of your mind. And that brings us to the section on the anatomy of courage.
Yeah, I like this part.
Me too. Yeah. Usually courage in these deep dives is about giant leaps, quitting the job, moving countries. But this source defines it differently.
It frames courage as a quiet, almost invisible act. It says it doesn't start on a battlefield, when the adrenaline is pumping.
And the crowd is cheering.
Right. It starts in the mind when no one is watching. It's that lonely moment where you look at your circumstances, which might be terrible, and you still choose to mentally rehearse abundance.
It describes it as a whisper. Courage isn't always a roar. Sometimes it's a whisper saying, try again tomorrow.
That is such a crucial distinction. The text emphasizes that real transformation happens when you have to act despite the physiological feedback of fear.
Right.
Your nervous system is sometimes just screaming, danger, or stop, simply because you're doing something new. The body prefers safety over growth.
That was the knee-shaking line that got me. We always think confident people don't get scared. But the text says, you do not wait for the fear to leave.
If you wait for the fear to leave, you'll wait forever.
You'll be waiting a long time.
Yeah, you have to step forward while the heart is pounding. You move with vision, not sight.
That's a key phrase. Vision, not sight.
Yeah.
Meaning you navigate by what you see in your mind, not what your physical eyes are reporting.
It's like flying a plane in thick fog. You have to trust the instruments, not the window.
And that's the bridge to the identity shift, right? Yeah. The goal isn't just to get stuff. It's to change who you are.
Exactly. The quote is, change the picture and you change your identity. Change your identity and you change your reality. It's shifting from, I hope I can do this, to, I am the person who does this.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here again. I know people who have vision boards who identify as successful, but they're still on the couch, all talk. The source identifies a missing link. It says you can have the picture and the courage, but without this one ingredient, it's just a cartoon in your head.
Emotion. This is the heavy lifter. The text is so explicit about this. The subconscious mind doesn't respond to words. It doesn't respond to logic. It responds to emotion.
This explains why standing in the mirror saying, I am a millionaire, 50 times usually feels ridiculous.
Yeah.
You're saying the words, but your brain is just going, yeah, right.
Exactly. If you say, I am wealthy, but your emotional state is pure anxiety and scarcity, the subconscious listens to the anxiety.
It's a mixed signal.
Completely. The subconscious is a survival engine, right? It prioritizes feelings because feelings like fear are what keep you alive.
So it's like driving with the parking brake on. Your conscious mind is hitting the gas with affirmations, but your emotions are slamming the brakes.
And the subconscious will always, always prioritize the brake, the emotion, because that's the survival signal. So the text introduces this concept of magnetic alignment.
Which means,
It means you have to fall in love with the idea of who you are becoming. You have to generate the emotion of the victory before the victory arrives.
that sounds tricky. How do you feel victory when you haven't won? It feels almost delusional.
It feels delusional to the logical mind, for sure. But the text frames emotion as fuel for resistance. Logic is weak.
How so?
Logic will give you 1,000 reasons to quit when you're tired. It's logical to sleep in. It's logical to save your money and not invest. Logic looks at the odds and tells you to give up.
But emotion, that burning desire or excitement, it overrides logic. It's the only thing irrational enough to keep you going.
Correct. Emotion is what keeps you moving when the spreadsheet says stop. It aligns your internal compass.
Speaking of keeping moving, we have to talk about resilience, because this source has a really unique take on this.
It really does.
Usually, visualization is all about the highlight reel, the trophy, the handshake, the finish line. The architecture of inner dominance says that is a huge mistake.
A huge mistake. It calls it incomplete programming. If you only visualize the perfect outcome, you are completely unprepared for the actual journey.
So what's the alternative?
The source suggests resilience through repetition, which means visualizing the struggle.
So the training montage, not just the award ceremony.
Exactly. You need to rehearse the resistance. You visualize the alarm going off and you desperately wanting to hit snooze, and then you visualize yourself getting up anyway.
Or visualize the deal falling through. Feel that punch in the gut. And then visualize yourself recalibrating and moving forward.
It's a flight simulator for your life. That's the perfect analogy. Pilots don't just fly in clear skies in the simulator. They simulate engine failure so they don't panic when it happens for real.
And the text calls this laying mental bricks.
Yeah. When you simulate the emotional difficulty and overcome it in your mind, you build bone-deep belief. You become resilient by design, not by accident. You aren't just hoping it'll be tough. You've literally practiced it.
So when reality throws a punch, which it will, you don't fold because you've already been there.
You've already won that fight in your head 100 times. The external obstacle feels smaller because your internal capacity is bigger.
That is a really, really practical takeaway. Stop visualizing just the beach house. Visualize the late nights working to get there. Now, there is one final trap the source warns us about. And honestly, this is the dream killer. It's the trap of one day.
The illusion of waiting.
Yeah. I'll start when I have the certification. I'll start when the kids are in school.
When the economy is better, we treat readiness like it's a destination we are going to arrive at one day.
And the text hits so hard here. It says, readiness is a decision, not a condition.
That line just stops you in your tracks. We think readiness is this feeling that will just wash over us.
Right, like one day you'll wake up and the fear will be gone and you'll feel ready.
And the source says, nope, that day never ever comes. You have to create it.
And you create it through immediate action.
Action now. The source says, you don't wait for proof, you become the proof. And this loops all the way back to the nervous system.
Also,
If you hesitate, you are sending a signal to your brain that says, I am not capable yet. You're reinforcing the old limitation. Every single time you delay, you vote for your old identity.
but if you act, even a small, messy action,
You send a signal that says, I'm in charge now. It breaks the pattern. Action builds confidence. Hesitation builds doubt. You have to move before you feel like it.
So pulling this all together,
Hmm.
the mind as a workshop, the necessity of emotional alignment, rehearsing struggle, not just success, and the danger of waiting. The source wraps this all up with a metaphor that I think is really empowering. It calls you the architect.
And the builder, it completely redefines responsibility.
Yeah.
A lot of people see responsibility as this heavy backpack, like it's my fault, things are bad. It feels like blame. The source flips that entirely. It says responsibility is power.
Power in what way?
Because if you are the architect and you drew the blueprints that built your current life, well, then you're the only one who can draw new ones.
You aren't a victim of the building, you built it.
Exactly, you built it.
Which means you can tear up the plan.
You can tear up the plans. The outer world is stubborn, yes. Concrete is hard to break. But the text promises that the outer world will eventually bend to a mind that refuses to let go of its vision.
So the real work isn't the emails or the meetings. The real work is winning the war within.
It's maintaining that dominant inner picture when the mirror is showing you something completely different. And trusting that if you do that internal work, the external mechanics will follow. It's not magic, it's physics.
So we want to leave you with a thought to mull over today. We've talked a lot about movies and scripts and rehearsals. The source's core argument is that your current reality is just an echo of the pictures you've been playing on a loop in your head for years.
Which is a sobering thought for a lot of us. It forces you to look around and say, I ordered this.
It is, but it's also the key to the jail cell. So here's the challenge. If your life is a movie based on your past thoughts, and you are currently writing the sequel with your present thoughts, would you actually buy a ticket to watch it?
And if the answer is no,
Then it's time to change the script. Thanks for diving in with us.
see you next time.